Howdy, folks. So, as some of you know, I've been working on a new project. I've got what I call my Mk3 basket case that I acquired back in August. This was a partially built car that I took over and basically disassembled and rebuilt. So I thought I'd give you a quick video tour of where I am on that car. So I'll flip the camera around because you probably don't really want to look at me anyway. So here we go. There's half the car. The other half is up there in the air. And then that's my other project over there. But that I've been working on for a while. So I acquired this back in August. It had been started or delivered in 2004 to a gentleman up in Scranton. So for about an hour from here. And he started work on it in earnest in 2019, was his second build. And unfortunately he was unwell and passed away at some point shortly after that. So while the car is circa 2004, a lot of the more critical components are a lot newer. The tires, for example, the engine and the transmission are all from 2020. It's got a Blueprint engine and a TKO transmission in it, all delivered from Blueprint. So pretty standard fare for you guys that buy this stuff. For the factory 5 cars. It's a 306 Blueprint dressed engine, so nothing exotic there. Standard front suspension and brakes for an older Mk3 anyway. It's got the coated headers on it and side pipes, 17-inch Hallebrand wheels, standard shocks, carbon fiber dash, and carbon fiber doors too. You can kind of see one of them right there. So they got these carbon fiber doors. I hadn't seen those before, so they're kind of neat. You know, it's different than the newer one. As you can see, it's just kind of more of a flat slab. It is turned up on the bottom, but doesn't have all the contours in it like the new ones. So all this car was partially built. There was some concerns with the build quality. I won't go into a lot of detail on that other than to say it needed to be fully disassembled and reassembled. So I had confidence in it. And so it was built to my standard. I'm going to be riding in this with my wonderful wife and other family and friends. We want to make sure this thing is safe. So, and I didn't mind doing the rework anyway. And I knew that from the start. So I knew that when I went and looked at it, that there was going to be a lot of work to do. So let's see, what else can I tell you? I did buy the Cobra master cylinder on it. Had to put a couple of those spacers in to get the pedal where I wanted it. And I did just, well, sort of semi-button up the driver's side foot box. I made some adjustments to the clutch, the brake, and the gas pedal. Got them all really where I wanted them. And it gives me just enough clearance, for example, behind the back of the clutch and the firewall, so then I could adjust the brake and the fuel accelerator down a little bit closer just to maximize the leg room down there. As far as the electrical goes, a pretty standard fare. I use the I did it switch that a lot of guys use for the headlights. I've got a Russ Thompson turn signal on here. I use one of my build goals when I started this was to use as many of the parts as I could that came with the car. So use the gauges that came with the car. I did splurge and buy a heater defroster for it. I did buy new seats for it. It came with these, well, I forget what they're called, these kind of unusual high back seats. Anyway, they were they were had been in storage, but boy, one was a real crusty mess. It must have gotten damp or something, and the other one is okay, but I had to replace the seats. So found a set out in Texas, and we made a deal, and a fella sent them up to me. So so now I've got seats in here, and I did install seat heaters in the seats. I do things a little bit different than some of the other guys. I end up putting the switch on the seat itself just to simplify the wiring. Let's see if I can show you on this one here. So I put a little panel back in here, and then put the switch in there, and it allows me to keep kind of all the wiring kind of tidy under the seat here. Now some of that will get thinned down. Got a little work to do here on the fan. I'm going to put wipers in here. Taking the wiper motor out of the coupe. I upgraded the coupe to the specialty power windows unit just because I was pretty unsatisfied with the factory 5 unit. And since this coupe has a much higher chance of getting driven in the weather, I thought I'd throw the other one over here in this car, since it probably won't be getting driven in the rain very often. It would be kind of an unexpected surprise. But I am going to put that wiper set in here. So I've got everything wired for that. I've got everything wired for the heater. One of the few upgrades I did was I did change out the mechanical heater control for a vacuum heater control valve, which will be electronically actuated, just because the way that cable, you were kind of restricted in the length of that cable, and it didn't bend real easy, and it wasn't going to work where I wanted to put it. So I spent the whatever, $80 and bought all that stuff. The controls for that are under here. So under there I've got my wiper and heater controls. So other than that, pretty standard stuff down here. I did put in the Breeze battery box, and like I did in my coupe, I did a remote battery terminal just so it's easy to get to that in the event that I need to jump it or charge it. And only need the positive. There's plenty of ground sources around to throw the other clamp onto. Hadn't seen this before. It's this fancy chrome hinge. I thought that was kind of neat. The kit did come with 2 sets of hinges, one kind of standard looking stainless steel, and then this one, and I guess a third set that was actually just more of like pins that would go in the front. And then I got the hood up there, hoods. It came with 2 hoods. It looks like a Mark II hood and a Mark III hood. I've got a gray one and a black one. So I guess when I go to fit the hood on there, I'll decide which one fits better or I like better. I don't know. Here in the cockpit, what else? It's got kind of the newer factory 5 e-brake cable, or e-brake and cables. So I just use that standard setup. The ones that I've seen all kind of attach to the trans tunnel. This one attaches to the floor. So I don't know, a little bit different, at least for me. I hadn't seen them before in other builds. So anyway, I got that, and I've got a boot that fits nicely over it. In fact, the one that most people put on the floor, you can kind of use right over that, and you just kind of bend it, and half of it tucks up on the side and the other half on the floor. Seems like it's going to work just fine. Again, my build philosophy was I'm going to use the parts that I got, so I'm taking you through the list of all the upgrades that I made anyway. Breeze seat mounts, I love them, and great item. I put them in here, and once I got it in there and got things set up, I ordered a set for my coupe Wiring down here for the heated seats. So I'll put some terminals on that when I get a little bit further along. What do we got? Shifter, we got a vent. My switch there, that'll get wired back in. I had to extend that over to this side of the dash so that that switch will get put back in. This cover is widened so that the carpet can kind of tuck underneath it. And I did have to move the shifter handle too. I wanted to flip that around, so I moved it from the back position to the forward position, and that worked just fine. Added some cup holders, got my cutoff switch. And one of the things I did to help make this fit underneath here is I ran the carpet all the way up to the top. And I took my beard trimmer and took off that inch of carpet there. So the carpet's pinned underneath there, but it's not bulking it out. And that'll end up getting wrapped in leather. That's my plan at this point. Around back here, I did cut out and build a spot for a cubby. Got 12 volt and USB chargers back here. That's all wired into relays and fuses and breakers and stuff up front. Up here, I've got my provisions for the lighting. I've got trunk lighting in here as well, so I got to get that wired up. I've got to figure out a switch. I got a couple that I'll play with. I am going to add a third brake light to the roll bar, or I'm going to attempt to, so we'll see how that goes. That might be a project for today. Those that follow my build thread, see I use these twitch connectors. I really like them. Pretty forgiving. If you miswire something, they're easy to take apart and redo it. And they seem to be pretty high quality. And I did add a ground back to each corner of the car, so I'll find a spot and get that tied into the chassis. You know, pretty standard stuff back here. It did come with like an extra 4 yards of carpet, so I went ahead and carpeted the heck out of the trunk, and I still got a ton of carpet left. It's different than the carpet that came with the coupe. It's certainly a much different sheen to it. It seems to be a sort of a similar style and quality, but I have to be careful about mixing and matching them. But maybe I can use some of that in the drop trunk in the other car. Did some Raptor on the elephant ears and these other parts that'll be kind of in the wheel wells. Did that while I was coating my underside of the coupe over there. And then I'll either do more Raptor in the front side of the rear wheel well here, or I might experiment with some of that rubberized spray. I've got this 3M stuff. I may play with that just to try something different and see how it goes. Roll bar, what was in, I guess this car had been powder coated by the owner because stuff that would normally have not been powder coated was powder coated, like the serial number, which I couldn't find it on the car originally when I bought it. I just had to work off the certificate they gave me and everything tied out. I did eventually find it, so we're good. But things like the roll bar mounts, etc., were powder coated. So that all had to be sanded down so that things worked there. And this car, if you notice, it's just got, you know, 1, 2 roll bar mounts per side. So this has a full roll bar that goes across the entire car, and apparently it came that way. It didn't look like he removed the other roll bar mounts, but I suppose it was possible he removed them before it got powder coated. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Carpet kit, you know, worked pretty good. There are a few kind of weird pieces here. I don't know if this was a Mark IV carpet kit or what the deal was, but I know there's some pieces in here that don't quite fit the way I would have expected them, but I'll be able to make it work in the end because I've got plenty of extra carpet. Just yesterday, I got the passenger side footwell completely buttoned up. I did build an extended foot box for it because I was missing, well, my powder coater lost one or two of the pieces of it, so I just built a larger one. So it kind of matches the driver's side in terms of dimensions and stuff. So, you know, that complicated other things, you don't think about it sometimes, but, and then I had to make the carpet fit. Well, the carpet didn't fit anymore, but again, I had a bunch of extras, so I was able to piece it together. So a lot more room in the passenger side foot box. It is a little tight down in there, but there's clearance, and hopefully that's enough. And if it's not, well, whatever, we'll figure it out. That's what we do with these projects, right? A lot of figuring stuff out, and that's what I've been doing, is figuring stuff out. Radiator, standard factory 5 radiator. I did go with the Breeze upper and lower mounts. Really happy with them. You know, Mark's got some great stuff over there. So that's all in there. I did shoot it all black, just so kind of tied out with the rest of the car. I kind of like that look. It sort of disappears back in there. Couple things, you know, you might see a little bit of blue tape here. That's to remind me that I've got a minor leak over there on the brakes. I got to get sorted out, and I've got a minor leak over here on the power steering pump. I suspect where that, I think it's an AN6 fitting, whatever it is. I suspect that maybe there's not a O-ring behind that. That is one of the few pieces I did not disassemble from the previous owner. I left that part on there, which was probably a mistake. I did, some of the plug wires were cut up, so I ended up having to replace plug wires, which it's a little bit of a bear on this engine because small block Ford wires don't fit. They're not long enough to work with these, kind of this wire management that they've got in place here. I ended up having to go with a set of big block Chevy under header wires as replacements. Again, because two of them were cut up. I don't understand what happened. They had electrical tape on them, and I finally pulled it off, and they were, I don't know if an animal got them or what, but something did. Either way, I replaced it with a new set, and I could have gone with the standard small block Ford set and just dumped the wire management, but you know, it's whatever, it's kind of neat. I'm not super attached to it, but kind of goes with the rest of the engine, so I decided to go ahead and maintain it. What else up here? I was never really happy with the Factory 5 coolant hoses, so I created this thing. It's a Moroso aluminum filler, and it's kind of a weird color right now because these Gates clamps are they kind of have a weird shine in the camera, but they don't have that when you just look at them without the camera. Anyway, so I use that, and I can't remember if the hose, if someone really wants to know, let me know, I'll tell you. I've got the number. I think the hose was like off a 76 Cadillac Eldorado or something like that. It had all the curves in it to give me exactly what I needed to fit. And there was probably still an extra 3 feet of hose in there. It's like the longest radiator hose I've ever seen in my life, but it had every curve you could imagine in there. So I figured, well, that's the one to start with because it's got all the different shapes. And I was able to make it work real nice. And I got that corrugated stainless steel stuff out of here. I did try to go with the Boyd tubes, cool tubes or whatever they call them. I guess those guys, since the owner passed away, they just kind of let that business go, which is unfortunate. They had some neat stuff. So that's my coolant hose. Again, other than that, pretty standard fare in here. Got my brake proportioning valve, which I had wired up backwards at one point, and I think Jeff Kleiner chimed in and said, hey dude, front goes to the back, back goes to the front. So had to rewire that. I know a couple other people have kind of ended up in that same boat. I'm real happy with the brakes. I've taken it for a test drive, and frankly, I think these brakes perform better than the what's on the coupe. And the coupe's got the larger rear brakes. It's got the Willwood pedal box, and it just brakes a heck of a lot better. Now that kind of made me think that I need to rebleed the coupe or go in there and make some adjustments to it. So clearly something's not quite right on that, because it should perform very similarly to this one. Anyway, I think that's about it. I'm getting to the point where I'll throw a couple rivets on this part here and drop the body on it and start doing some other fitting of the doors and some of the other things. And I think that'll be the next thing I do to keep me busy. All while I'll still be working on the coupe, still trying to make some decisions as to whether or not I'll be the one painting that or not. So I'll get the body thrown back on there. One of the potential painters is coming over to take a look at it. And if he comes up with an acceptable price, he'll get that. And I'll work on the Cobra. And if his price is outrageous, which it probably will be, and I understand why, then I'll probably tackle that one and just throw a cover on the Cobra for a while and pick it up later. So anyway, that is my update. Again, it's a Mk3 Cobra. Pretty happy with it. I got it, I would say, for probably under 50 cents on the dollar for all of the parts that are included in there. Maybe even better than that with inflation adjusted prices. Again, he bought it so long ago. And I think it's a great way to do these. It's not for everybody, but I certainly like doing this type of work. I don't mind pulling it apart and redoing stuff. I don't mind the puzzles. That's kind of stuff I enjoy. So I don't know, maybe when this one's together, I'll drive it for a while, shake it down. If I can get a fair price for it, I'll try to do that and then parlay that money into whatever my next project is. All right, over and out.